But let's begin with that standoff in South Korea, which began with the late-night announcement from President Yoon.
친애하는 국민 여러분.
I hereby declare an emergency martial law in order to defend the Free Republic of Korea from the threat of North Korean communist forces and to eradicate the shameless pro-North anti-state forces that are depriving our people of their freedom and happiness. This measure is necessary to safeguard our constitutional order of freedom.
It would appear the US was not given any advance notice of President Yoon's statement. Within minutes of it appearing, the army had announced the suspension of all parliamentary activity. Protests, they said, are banned under threat of arrest, and the media was censored according to martial law. But that had not stopped thousands of protesters coming out onto the streets, nor did it stop the opposition lawmakers from fighting their way into the National Assembly, past soldiers and police who tried in vain to prevent any access. An army helicopter landed on the roof of the Parliament building. Soldiers were patrolling inside, but they failed to prevent a vote taking place. And within 2 hours of President Yoon's decision, 190 of the 300 MPs had voted to overturn it. Under South Korean law, their vote takes precedent. Let's speak then to BBC producer Jae Kwon, who's been in Seoul following events through the night, a fast-moving situation. And in the last half hour, the order rescinded by President Yoon.
That's right. President Yoon has given another televised speech to the public saying that as soon as he has the quorum and can get his cabinet members together, he will lift the martial law, and he's already pulled back the troops from the National Assembly. Now, the question is, what next? The National Assemblymen and women are still in the building right behind me at the National Assembly because they don't know if President Yoon will truly back off this easily. I think there's still this sense of this disbelief that Yoon would play such a high-stake game and then back off so easily.
Jake, is there any sense you get, it's been half an hour since the statement, that the army is retreating to barracks?
I mean, we've seen videos of army leaving the National Assembly. We heard from the National Assembly members inside saying that they saw the military and the police leave the main chamber where the vote took place. And, we have the word from President Yoon. I think they're staying put because they're seeing a small chance that Yoon would do some kind of other subterfuge. I think the protesters are here and they're not going away anytime soon. You can hear the kind of blaring speeches given by angry protesters. And then there you can also hear the singing because they want to stay here until truly all the military, all the police had gone home.
Jay, where do you think this leaves politics in Seoul tonight, and particularly the position of the president?
Now, the president has been keeping mum about what next. I mean, he just did his televised speech, and that was it. In terms of what the main opposition party will do, I think there is a bit of a consensus among the opposition party members that Yoon must now either step down or be impeached. I think the two lawmakers inside the National Assembly I spoke to said that this is a pretty universal feeling amongst the Democratic Party, who has nearly enough seats. They just need a few more defection from the ruling party to get this motion. I think there's a sense across the board that Yoon had crossed over some kind of line. And we will see what happens next. But things could move very quickly in the next week.
And presumably, given the result of the April elections, the support of the people will be with the lawmakers and not with the president.
This president has been very, very unpopular. His approval rating has gone down below 20% in recent weeks. And a lot of people, both on the right and the left, has been quite dismissive of the President Yoon. And this is partly why President Yoon possibly had been pushed to this kind of desperate move.
Can you just take us back to the moment in the night when he made this announcement? Because it's worth just considering the perpetual threat that South Korea is under from its near-nuclear armed neighbour. When a president comes on national television and makes an address that martial law is in place, what is the first instant reaction of people in South Korea?
I think there were people who were watching this announcement who were confused that maybe some kind of invasion, some kind of attack or provocation from North Korea may have happened, considering the wording of President Yoon. But quickly, I think there's a sense that North Korea is not their primary occupation. I mean, of course, we in the West see Korean Peninsula primarily through the eyes of geopolitics, but South Koreans, their main headline for the last few weeks has been about domestic politics. So when Yoon brought up North Korean threat to enact this martial law, I think a lot of Korean people were flabbergasted or simply did not know what to make of it. And even in his last speech saying that he will soon lift the martial law, he still repeated this claim that there's this force against him and against South Korea. So I think there's this sense that there's a bit of a division, a divorced kind of reality between how Yoon sees the situation and how the public here sees the situation.
Jay, good to get your thoughts. Thank you very much for that reaction on the ground in Seoul. Let's go then to Washington, speak to State Department correspondent Tom Bateman. Flabbergasted in South Korea. Were they flabbergasted in the halls of the State Department, Tom?
They were. I mean, first thing this morning when this was breaking, the sense you got from US officials as I came into this building was just one of complete shock. They were caught totally off guard by this. No one had been expecting it. We've heard them say on the record today that they had no advance warning of it. And this is coming from the leader of an absolutely key US ally, absolutely core to the strategic posture of the US in that region. And so for something like this to have taken place with sort of no advance knowledge, at least that's what the US says, it's pretty extraordinary. And I think they spent, the hours of this morning working out exactly what was going on in Seoul, trying to talk to them. In fact, it's not even clear at what level they managed to sort of get through to the South Korean government here. The wording that they've been using is that they were seeking to talk to him. It's not entirely clear to me that Secretary of State Antony Blinken was able to speak to his counterparts during this crisis. And now here we are at the apparent end of this particular moment of it, with President Yoon saying that martial law will be lifted. And I think the US just wondering what on earth has happened. And it's not over yet, as you were just hearing from Seoul, because I think what this does is shake, a very, very sort of important relationship for the United States, because this is a strategic relationship. But at the same time, the US has always tried to back that up by presenting South Korea as a beacon of democracy in the region. And so for this to have taken place, I think they're going to be really worried about how easily and just how fragile it appears that South Korean democracy is.
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's always the danger when there's instability in South Korea that one of its neighbours might try and exploit that disorder. And that quite clearly has implications for US security because they have significant installations in South Korea.
Yeah, I mean, these are two key allies. The US has around 28,500 troops stationed in South Korea. They have very wide-ranging defence and security pacts, a mutual defence treaty, which is all designed as a sort of bulwark against the threat as they see it as that comes from North Korea. And not just that, but it has regional implications because the Biden administration has continued to foster a relationship with both Seoul and Tokyo that acts, as they see it, as a bulwark against both North Korea and what they see as the sort of expansionist aspirations of China. So it's incredibly important, that relationship. And I think what we're going to have now is a sort of much more of an examination of the tensions that this will have created, as you say, around security. It was notable both in the State Department briefing that I was at with the spokesman today and at the Pentagon that both officials were asked whether or not there was a change either to US security posture, their troops' posture in the region, to which they said there is not at the moment, but also whether they had assessed or seen any changes to the forces posture of the North Koreans? Now that is an interesting question, and it goes to what you've said, that there may be the desire to try and exploit it on the behalf of North Korea. Now the Americans said their assessment was that there was no change in that security situation yet, but of course it just shows you how easily the dynamics here can be shifted.
Tom, thank you very much for that. So how did it come to this? Well, President Yoon, who was voted into office in May 2022, has been a lame duck president since April, when the opposition won a landslide at the general election. His government has not been able to pass bills. In fact, just last month, he was forced to issue an apology on national TV for a corruption scandal surrounding his wife. This week, the opposition slashed the budget for his government, which he cannot veto, and then moved to impeach some of the cabinet and several top prosecutors who had failed to investigate the First Lady fully.